Hey, folks. Welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, as the NPR said in their headline last week, and because we hadn't talked since this happened, I know there were a couple of tiny little football games out there, but the Pistons, and this is their headline, the Pistons' nightmare is finally over. They finally won a game, but not before they set the all-time record for losing games in a row. I want to say 28 in most of the season ever. So they'll always have that, or at least until somebody else comes along that's worse. But when you're making NPR headlines, and hey, this isn't a political show at all. It's just you can go find any number of headlines.
Let's balance with the Newsmax headline. How about that?
Yeah. That's not good. That's not good, right?
No, that's in the face of total failure and ignominy, to use a Shawn Windsor word. Yeah, everybody was happy. They were jubilant that they finally won a game, and it was, of course, dramatic fashion. And after so many close calls to the one in Boston, right? And, you knew that the problem with the Pistons, I think, at the end was nobody wanted to lose to them. Nobody wanted to, they were getting their team's best shots.
No.
We're not going to be the one that they break the record or end the record against. And so it's kind of weirdly compelling to watch them.
No, it was. The ratings were great.
Better.
Yeah, they were. No, they were playing well. Cunningham was on a heater for a couple of weeks. The ratings are great. I know there are a lot of the NBA world were tuning in every night, whether it was through League Pass. And I kept seeing tweets for a couple of weeks. Where are all the Pistons? The whole NBA world, any basketball fan out there were rooting for the team. When they won the game, I was in a press box at Cowboys Stadium. And obviously, we're going to get to football here because it was the biggest weekend.
Stadium. But there's no Cowboys Stadium anymore.
I was in the Cowboys Stadium, and in the press box, at least in the Detroit area where all the Detroit writers, that's all anybody was talking about. Everybody were watching on their laptops and their phones to see if they were going to finally end the streak. So that was you're right. It was compelling.
Yeah. So what does this mean? Does this stave off any executions here? Any mid-season firings, in-season firings for the Pistons?
Well, I don't know that one win's going to do that. I mean, Gores came out and more or less supported his guys, at least for now, right? And he very specifically did with Monty Williams. He said, hey, it's not fair to him. He just got here. He's not part of this process. We're not going to fire a coach 28 games in or whatever it was. With Troy, it was a little less, but he kind of hinted around about making changes right now. There was no point to it. But he left it open in the summer for sure. So, we'll see what happens. It's a mess. It's over. Unfortunately, now I think people are going to tune the Pistons out. They're just going to go back to their 10-win season. Now that the history's over, and everybody will go back to their lives and get back to, at least around Detroit, football.
Yeah, there's a couple of big football games coming up.
Can you remember a 2-day stretch? I mean, obviously, normally it's Saturday, Sunday, so maybe we can't call it a weekend because Michigan played Monday out here at the Rose Bowl. But can you remember, a couple of days like that? I guess it was technically 3 days where you had two more compelling games with so much at stake. Less so for the Lions, obviously, but you remember a more fun weekend for people that like football in our state?
No, I don't know if I agree with the less compelling for the Lions. I mean, the Lions could have potentially moved closer to locking up the number 1 seed. They obviously didn't. And this was to go to the national championship for Michigan. But yeah, I mean, huge games, overtime, should have been overtime in 2, but overtime in 1 in Michigan. And that huge controversial 2-point conversion that will go down in Lions lore, Shawn. I mean, it's going to go down with one of the picked up flag in Dallas 10 years ago and taking the wind and all this stuff. It's going to people will never forget it. But it was so really, really fun games, really good games, crazy time. You were at both. So how wild was it for you to be there, to be in those press conferences, to be, one obviously super angry, 3-minute Dan Campbell press conference. Players in the locker room didn't want to talk about it. We're trying to be very careful not to get fined about the officiating, but then complete jubilation, in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. What were the differences like in those two atmospheres?
Well, it was what's fun. The nice thing about bowl games is the teams are forced to open the locker room, so you can go and actually talk to the players. You don't just have a couple, and so that part's fun. But I would take a step back, and we need to get into Michigan. And we've already talked about the Lions, and we'll talk some more about the Lions. But But just real quickly before we really dive more into Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and everything that is going on and what's at stake, is I've been asked this a few times over the last couple of days about the games, just on atmosphere. And maybe I'm biased too because I feel the same way about basketball. I love college sports, but there's something about a sport played at the highest level it can be played at wherever you are in the world, right? I mean, whether you're in Europe or Brazil watching soccer or whatever. But so for me, as great as the Rose Bowl is spectacular, the setting is beautiful, the energy is great. I mean, it's 90,000 people. But bowl games are split. The fans are, maybe it wasn't quite 50-50 Michigan to Alabama, but it was close to being split. It was probably 55-45, maybe 60-40, maybe not that much, but it's not. It's for Michigan. It's because they have their biggest alumni base is out here. Plus they travel well. Alabama travels great too, but they're used to this, and Michigan isn't quite used to this. So although they've done it in the last couple of years, but anyway, there's something about there's tension, but it's not quite the same when you're at AT&T Stadium, and that's one of the best fan bases in the country, right? In the NFL. With the Cowboys, and it's covered and it's really loud, and it was a great game. Obviously came down to the last 3 plays, 2-point conversions, as you mentioned. So, and even though there wasn't quite as much at stake, I mean, Michigan was literally playing for the season, the Lions were not. So that's a difference. But there was just something about watching the game in Dallas and the way the Lions played, the way they drove down to at least potentially tie the game and score to give them a chance to either win or tie the game on the road against a team that scored, 40 points, just the way the defense played, all of that, you could feel the whole weight of Michigan, and you could just feel it. And that's why we and I talked about it that night. There were so many just apoplectic, despondent people, but they got a sense this team's real. So look, I know for Michigan fans, it's a bigger deal because they're going to go play for the title game and do something they've never done. They've never been in this position, at least as far as the playoff. But just in my soul, I felt more. How about this? I felt more alive in the Cowboys Stadium than I did at the Rose Bowl.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because college tends to be. I mean, we're sports writers, so we're not emotionally involved, but there's a lot more emotion in college than there is in pros, typically. But I think also the nature of the game, right? There was so much controversy. And if you looked at, I was watching it on TV, and after the Lions converted on the first attempt, before it was called back, they showed the Cowboys fans who were just like, they looked like they were in a coma. They couldn't believe what they just seen, and the Lions had the audacity to go for the win, and they did it, and you're the Cowboys and all this other stuff. And they were already upset about Mike McCarthy's play call, refusing to run the clock down and sort of in passing instead and all that stuff. So you could just see they were in total shock. And then the whole thing changes and there's a penalty and all that stuff. That typically doesn't happen in the NFL. You don't get that level of controversy typically, very often. So, that was, I mean, the Lions, I mean, the Michigan game was, very exciting and Michigan tying it up and all that and then going to overtime and winning it, but pretty straightforward, right? They get a field goal and they stop Bama from scoring, getting a field goal, so they win, and that's it. But that's a good point, right? Because typically when you go to a college game, it's almost all whatever the home team is. The teams don't travel the same, so it's not. It's a bowl game is very different that way, but yeah. And then the craziness, right? I mean, that had to affect you too. Just the mood, and we've been in locker rooms enough, and when I remember the locker rooms that are angry or disappointed or whatever. There's controversy or there's a benching. I remember those a lot more because even when they win games, the players are celebrating, but by the time we get in the locker room, a lot of that's over with. They're happy, but they're getting dressed. They're getting ready to leave and go see their families after the game, or their teammates, hang out with their teammates afterward at a post-game celebration, whatever it is. So they've already had a cooling down period, which is why that exists. But but then also the Michigan, I mean, like you said, you can go in the locker room after the bowl games that's something that doesn't ever happen. So you finally get to see them, and it had to be a insane, raucous atmosphere right in the Wolverines locker room.
No, they were. And there's a lot at play there with that win, a lot of play, and I want to break that down with you, obviously, as my fellow compadre here.
You've been out in LA too much. You're picking up Spanish. I like it.
As you like to say, a brother from another mother, although our mother.
Did you get that Spanish in the drive-thru at Taco Bell or Del Taco, or where did you pick that up?
No. And by the way, what's your obsession with Jack in the Box? For you listeners out there, Carlos has been mentioning Jack in the Box to me recently, and I'm not sure why or where it comes from. I don't know that I've ever really talked about Jack in the Box other than as they're fried crispy tacos when I was a teenager in Texas. Late at night, coming out of a bar. And back then, by the way, hey, you could drink legally at 19. Imagine that. But where's the Jack in the Box thing from?
Well, Jack in the Box is, they had it in Michigan for a while. People will mention it every time I mention this, when I say, oh, yeah, we used to have it here. In LA, the thing with Jack in the Box was it's where real LA people eat. Everybody from LA, and In-N-Out's great. But Jack in the Box was one of the very first fast food franchises where you could get a burger, a taco. I think maybe they had hot dogs. And at one point I know they monkeyed with sushi for just a little bit. It was kind of a one-stop shop. And no other place did that until Del Taco came around. There was a place before that called Noggles that kind of messed with it. But Jack in the Box was the first, and they were everywhere. And you could do, curly fries and onion rings and all this other stuff. And I love In-N-Out, but In-N-Out kind of does one thing. And I mean, it's like you can get fries or you can get fries, and you can get a burger or you can get a burger. And they do it great. But yeah, everybody stayed in their lane, Taco Bell and whatever. But yeah, that's why people loved it.
Yeah, the only time I ever ate Jack in the Box, and this is back in the 80s, was the taco. They literally just took a taco out of the freezer. It was pre-made and stuffed and sealed at the top and dumped it into a fryer where you put French fries.
It was delicious. The super taco was amazing.
And somehow they were so delicious. It was almost like a big version of the little frozen pizza rolls or little frozen
Totinos.
God, I'm putting air quotes here, listener. The Mexican rolls that we got in the 70s. They're like bigger versions of that. It was somehow it had no business being good, but it was delicious.
I'm sorry, they had a teriyaki bowl. It wasn't sushi. They did teriyaki bowls and everything else. It was something, anybody who might have a familiarity with Jack in the Box also, there was something called the sourdough Jack, Shawn. It was, grilled sourdough bread sandwich.
Round. They were circle. They were circles, like flat circles.
Sourdough circles and the burger. Maybe you've had it then. The mushrooms on it.
I have.
Swiss cheese. It was probably 2,000 calories. It was amazing. But that was the thing, is you could drive. It was open late. You could drive through and get a teriyaki bowl or a taco or a burger or curly. It was just a shake. You name it. It was one-stop shopping for all your food, food needs. So that's why it helps. Everybody remembers. And they had really funny commercials too. They did the clown, the Jack, that looked like the little face on the thing, whatever. And they also had good merch giveaways. They had little Jack in the Box heads that you could stick on your antennas for cars when they had those. So there's a lot at play. If you mention Jack in the Box to Angelinos, there's usually a little wistful fondness remembering that stuff.
Yeah, I think about, they were all over Texas too, way back. And you had Del Taco. We had some Del Tacos. We had Taco Cabanas. Probably didn't go quite that far, but that's a fast food. In any case, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We'll reminisce more with Carlos, who, as you can hear, listener, he's quite sentimental. He's very nostalgic. He's so, despite what you read, he's got a kind soul, and he's very wistful and very, very calm most of the time. So yeah, I'm actually the opposite of what I read. Like I'm, fiery and have no empathy at all. No, that's actually not true. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Just one more note on the fast food of our youth, the nostalgia. It's not. Here's the thing. Sometimes, Carlos, it's better not to go back. I remember, 10 years ago, I was coming up from Austin I was going through Waco. I was somewhere in Central Texas going to Dallas for a game of some kind. Maybe it was the Cotton Bowl with Michigan State. And I saw a Whataburger. And I haven't had a Whataburger since I was a kid. Whataburger, I don't know if they have this in California, but they have them in Texas. It's a fast food burger chain. And I stopped to get one. And I regret, I took one bite and I'm like, no. And I would have preferred that the memory of that, and I'm sorry for those of you out there if you still like Whataburger, I'm sure it's fine. But I wanted that memory to stay the way it was.
Yeah, sometimes that's disappointing, and one of the things that makes, like, I'll give an example, and fast food, whatever, McDonald's, whatever it is the consistency. It's not the highest end food, but they tend to be a fillet of fish is a fillet of fish. You're not going to get any variance. In-N-Out does that. They're not a franchise, but they're family-owned franchise basically, and it's very consistent. But I have had Shake Shack in different places. It's not been the same. Five Guys, not the same in different places. So it's really hard. That, having worked in the food industry, it's really hard to maintain consistency, especially at that level, national franchise level. So I don't know if you just got a bad Whataburger. Give it another shot, Shawn. Don't give up.
No, I have a feeling that's kind of what it always was.
Maybe you got a bad cook that day. You were a cook. You had bad days. Maybe.
For sure. But your memory changes a little bit. True. Some of that kind of stuff. True. But who knows? I don't know. Speaking of consistency, we can't even keep this podcast consistent, right? Some days or some weeks we're kind of, and other weeks we're fighting each other, and then other weeks we go too long. So yeah, we can relate to trying to be consistent. We're trying to be the McDonald's of podcasts, aren't we?
Yes.
Be the same over here. All right, Michigan, man. The Lions, they've got a little bit more time, but they've got one more regular season game, the home playoff game. Could be Stafford and the Rams. We'll see. But Michigan's playing for it all, man, against Washington. Did you watch? I assume you watched them play Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Great game. What a great game.
It was a great
except
game.
Special teams. And maybe the snapper,
Michigan,
the center for Alabama.
Michigan special teams. Alabama's special teams were fabulous. Their punter, they've got the best field goal kicker in the game. And their punter was great. Flipped the field several times. So, the special teams. But did anything stand out to you, surprise you? Just think about all that was at stake. The big bad SEC versus the Big Ten. On top of that is this Jim Harbaugh's last year. Is Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator. They go down and shut down Washington, or at least hold them down a little bit. They're the best offensive football. It's hard to imagine him coming back. So things could be really, really different in Ann Arbor next year. Do you feel that as a storyline and all this?
Oh, absolutely. And I think with Harbaugh, it's always a storyline every year, right? He's always a flight risk. Someone asked, there was a press conference, teleconference when we're recording this on Wednesday, and someone asked, the potential of the, who knows what's going to happen next year, but if you have to vacate some victories or whatever, what'll that feel like to ask Jim Harbaugh that? And he refused to go down that path of a hypothetical, but that kind of just underscored there's a lot of uncertainty here. What's going to happen next year? What the NCAA rules, if he leaves, it's already, what, he's going to the Raiders? Is that the new thing?
The Chargers, the people out here are pushing for the Chargers.
And he supposedly hired a new agent who has deep connections to the NFL, all this stuff. So
Tom Brady's guy.
Yeah, Tom Brady's guy. So you never know, plus the transfer portal, plus, good and bad. They'll get some, they'll lose some. There's going to be graduations. Does McCarthy come back? All these things. We talk about, in the NFL more, we talk about the window of winning. In college, it tends to be, you got your king coaches like Saban who typically don't go anywhere, to the Dolphins for a little bit, but they tend to stay. So you got to win this game because this is your chance, right? It's the first time you've been there in 26 years, whatever. You're the favorite. I expect Michigan to win this game. Washington is great. Michael Penix Jr. is amazing, but Michigan's defense is just insane. They were so impressive against Jalen Milroe, who's a great quarterback, but they've just done everything right on defense, and they have a very good offense. Obviously, JJ McCarthy can make some plays. I think he still needs another year to develop. I wouldn't know if he's going to come out and be a first round pick or second round, probably a second round, but who knows? Does Harbaugh come back, right? I mean, and that may be the first maybe clue, right? If whether he comes back or not. If McCarthy comes out in the draft, that means maybe Harbaugh's leaving. But this is their chance, and I think they should win the game. I think things will be different in some way, and they could be drastically different in some way in Ann Arbor next year. So, do you think this is it for them, or are they going to be? Is this a dynasty that's going to keep rolling, and Harbaugh's going to stay there for 10 more years?
If he wins, then it's hard to see him staying, right? I mean, if he gets it's all about if he gets an opportunity.
But he's also just one thing. If he wins, he's a king. He's the king of Ann Arbor. Job security for life. That's it. He goes. You're right. He can. There are other mountains to conquer. He goes to the NFL, but
and that's the thing with him, though. That's what's been out there for him. No, for sure, but that's what's been out there for him. I mean, he's talked about that in his own way about getting so close to the Super Bowl and wanted to do it at the highest level. And I think it would be if he won, he'd win in his alma mater, he'd accomplish his goal. And I don't know, he's like a shark that way. He's got to keep moving. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's got to keep moving to breathe. Mm-hmm. Right? There are just some coaches that are like that. And Beeline had that in him. He moved around, got to Michigan, had a lot of success, chased that title, got close, got to the title game twice, but he just couldn't let go of the idea, how would my abilities and my skills and my process work at the highest level?
But he'd never been in the NBA. Harbaugh's been in and this is his school.
Yeah,
this is where he is the king.
He got a taste of it, and wants to go back and finish.
But
that's why.
I mean, he would have left Jimmy Johnson. You're going to go be Barry Switzer. Who cares? It's been done before. It's not like it's not going to.
But he's not thinking about. You're not thinking about other people. You're thinking about how you could do it, and that's what matters to him. It's not. He's not worried about legacy.
He wants to be his brother. He wants to match.
He wins the title. Maybe so. He wins the title here in Michigan. Then he's got that legacy. He's got that part. He wants to go out at the highest level and see if he can do that again. I mean, that's why he's interviewed the last 2 years. If Minnesota had offered him the job, he wouldn't be at Michigan. They didn't offer him the job, right? So to me, that's what it comes down to. Will an NFL team actually offer him a job? Because if they do, I think he's gone.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, that's completely only Jim Harbaugh knows what's in Jim Harbaugh's heart. And there's a lot of that coaching hubris in any coach, right? Is I want to prove myself at the highest level. And once I do it one place, I want to prove it. I can do, once I'm John Gruden, I can do it in Tampa. I'm going to go do it in wherever, the next stop with the Raiders or whatever. Raiders, Tampa Raiders, but I guess it's this. They're all sharks in some way in that sense. But I think with Harbaugh, if he feels that the administration, all the way from Ward Manuel to the, Board of Regents and the, Santa Ono, whoever, if he feels they haven't been out to get him, right? If he feels he's been treated somewhat fairly and he's appreciated and they rework his contract and they give him a ton of money and it's basically a lifetime contract, I could also see that. I could see where he might appreciate where he is and who he has and whatever. I mean, he goes to the NFL team. He knows the NFL. It's going to be a rebuild. You're not going to go get a championship team. You're going to have to either work with a drafted quarterback or work with somebody that it hasn't worked with yet and make things happen. And the patience is really short in the NFL. And he's already had that experience with the York family in San Francisco, and they got tired of his stuff. And in his Harbaugh's uniqueness, I'm just going to be polite about it, doesn't play the same way in the NFL that it does in college. But maybe he doesn't care about that. And it is true. Harbaugh wins a national title, goes to the NFL, flings out in 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, and he can go back to college in a minute. People will hire him because he's got a national title and he's Jim Harbaugh and he's good for ticket sales and people, so yeah, he'll never not have a job as long as he wants it for the next 10, 15 years or whatever. But Ann Arbor's the place to me. I mean, I just, that's where your legacy right now, no matter, even if he wins a Super Bowl somewhere else, if he wins a national title in Michigan, he's a god. He ascends into the pantheon of great coaches and his legacy is here. Every time there's some celebration in Ann Arbor, as long as he's in fairly good graces with the administration and the coaching, so whatever it is, the athletic department, he'll obviously welcome back. He'll get a huge rousing and ovation, at Michigan Stadium. But in the NFL, depends on who you follow, who's there, what the legacy is of previous coaches and all that stuff. So it'll be. You're probably right, Shawn, if he gets offered the job somewhere. But Michigan can do something about that, right? Offering him a big fat contract before that happens.
They could, but they can't offer him. It's more fundamental than that, right? It's not. I don't think it's hubris at all. It's. And forgive me if I've mentioned this before. Maybe I have on this podcast. I feel like I have, but do you remember there's a really fun, silly little movie called Blast from the Past?
Oh yeah,
with Brendan Fraser and Christopher Walken, and they get stuck in a bomb shelter, and Brendan Fraser grows up in a bomb shelter underground, so he's got no contact with society at all, and it finally opens up, and he gets out, and his dad wants to. He's thought, oh, God, you got to go out into society. I'm going to teach you a few things. And he's in his 20s. His character's in his 20s at this point. And they start talking about the birds and the bees. And so he's trying to explain to Christopher Walken's the dad, Brendan Fraser's the son. He's trying to explain to his son how babies get made. And he's describing the sperm coming to the egg. And Brendan Fraser says, but why? Why does the sperm go to the egg? Why? And Christopher Walken says, because it must. Because it's out there. And that's how I think of Jim Harbaugh. And that's how I think of any kind of coach like that. Beeline was the same. It's out there. It's not hubris. It's not, I want to prove I can do it. It's, I want to see if I can do it. I want to see if I'm capable. I want to see what this is like. That's a totally different motivation, which allows you to walk away from your alma mater. Right? And where you've had all the success and where you're beloved, because it's really not about that legacy in that way. It's about seeing how you think of yourself. He thinks of himself as a coach, as a leader, as somebody that devises and strategizes and all these kind of things and manages all these parts of a football team. And then can you bring everybody together and go win at the highest level? That's what drives you.
But here's the other thing. And what do you think about this scenario is just, has this also just been a great, between Harbaugh and his agent, a great chess match that he's played with Michigan as far as stoking that idea that there's always interest in me in the NFL, because that gives you job security in a different way. That gives you a better contract. It's like any job. If you have an offer from some other place, that just increases your value. It increases your, you have more leverage in salary negotiation and whatever it might be. It's never a bad thing to do that. It doesn't typically happen in college with college coaches. Harbaugh's a little bit different that way, and because he's coached in a Super Bowl, it's a little bit different, and he was an NFL quarterback, all that stuff. But I think it's a good plan his part to keep interviewing and to keep that idea in Michigan's because administrations, universities are fickle. When things aren't, they're very squeamish about controversy and not doing things the right way and all this mythology about the student athlete and blah, blah, blah. I think they're scared, and you got a lot of people you got to answer to, right? The donors, you got to do all this FaceTime with the fundraising thing and the alums and the clubs and the blah, blah, blah. In the NFL, you got one boss, really, maybe two, owner and maybe their GM or president or whoever, but you don't have to do that. So I can see where maybe that's worn on Harbaugh, but I also think maybe that it's not been a bad idea to keep either just like, what did he interviewed virtually with the Broncos last offseason. Play it kind of, a little bit fast and loose on, well, I don't know. I can't tell the future. Nobody knows. We'll see.
He wanted the Vikings job, and he flubbed the interview. I mean, according to reports, right? It just didn't go well. He got, there was somebody else in the organization that wanted somebody else. So no, he clearly wants to do it. And I'm sure he's torn because he loves Michigan too. And the president, Santa Oro, has been really good to him, good supporter of him. Right. So I don't feel like he feels that with U of M at all. If anything, he might feel it with the NCAA. Now that's different. But he's really well paid. He's one of the highest paid coaches. And as far as leverage, he doesn't need the leverage. If you win, that's the leverage, right?
Well,
that's the leverage.
Now it is. But also,
but he's been winning for 3 years. So he's plenty of
winning
leverage.
Is great, but also, the controversy is not great it's almost balanced against each other of all the problems, right?
Yeah, he's got to win, right?
He has to.
With all that
That's
other stuff, if he doesn't win.
If he weren't winning, he'd be gone.
No, for sure. No question. The winning, he was close to him being gone, right? Remember after the 2 and 4 year, there were some issues. And
twice.
There were all these caveats put in his contract, right?
That was another thing.
You know what I mean?
Harbaugh doesn't forget these things easily, right? Having basically being told you're getting a pay cut and it's incentive based and whatever. And, there's got to be something there. And that's coming from Ward Manuel too. And, it's just imagine being told that.
But that was before Santa Ono.
Right.
President Ono. So
Ward was I think that's probably was the AD, and he's still the AD.
No, for sure. But the president's the boss, right? And then the board could have some say so. And then frankly, like you said, there's so many hands in the pie in college, donors and all that sort of thing. But no, if he wins and the NFL gives him an offer, it's really hard to see him coming back. That's not saying won't, but there could be a lot of change. I know we didn't talk about the game much, but if you have any thoughts about the game, I mean, we're a couple of days away from it. It was an incredible performance by Michigan. They have a togetherness. It's a cliche. Harbaugh talked about it. I think this stuff has actually helped them, and they put that chip on their shoulder, and they're good. It's funny. I got out here and I know a couple of people that help run the Rose Bowl media and stuff, and they're around teams all the time. And somebody pulled me aside and said, and this was a person who graduated from Ohio State. And she said, I hate to admit this, but these players they're wearing me down. They're really, really good kids, and they're really fun to be around. And there's something about them. And she was an athlete herself in college, a Buckeye. And I said, yeah, that's kind of how they've been all year. And, you can say it doesn't matter, but of course that stuff matters. So they're talented, and we saw it in the game, right? You don't come back and win the way they win without some character. You just don't, and survive that pressure.
I think it's something that's helped them, but they're also a field goal away from, Alabama beating them, and I'm sure they have character too and togetherness and whatever, They do, and Saban talked about how because they're not as talented as they usually are. And Saban said that the key to this year's team was that because they don't have 10 first rounders or whatever. I mean, they got like 4.
But none of them are skill players on offense, and that's true. And that's the difference. That's the difference. They got defensive studs for sure.
I think with Michigan, their defense. You mentioned, Jesse Minter. I mean, that thing it's impressive to watch.
That front seven, their front, not just the linebackers are good, but the front in particular. They've got NFL guys up and down, and they're deep. They play 7-8 guys.
Yeah, Sandstrom's a great. I think he's a great college player. Will Johnson's a great college player. I mean, it's their.
Well, Will Johnson's a first round.
Oh, of course,
right?
Yeah.
So
not this year, but yeah,
Sanders still not so much, but no, you're
saying
right.
That's what I'm saying. College players, because same thing.
No, for sure.
McCarthy is a great college player. I don't know if he's going to do a hell of a lot in the pros if he comes out right away, but
hard to know. Every now and again, he makes a throw that looks like, oh my God, that's an elite level NFL throw. He's on the run and he's got a huge arm. But you're right, he's got a lot of growing. My last thing real quickly, and I know I always come back to the line, the difference this year as opposed to when they were here a couple of years ago, and I don't mean in Pasadena, I just mean in the college football playoff, they've got big guys in the middle of the defensive line with quick feet. And that's the NFL level defensive tackles is usually what separates the SEC from the Big Ten. It's those guys that can rack a pocket, right? Like Georgia. Right. Georgia had Jalen Carter. I mean, Alabama's always had those guys. Not quite this year. Michigan had the guys this year, and you saw it. I mean, they blew them up.
Mason Graham.
Oh no, he's great too. Yeah, they've got several of them. So they're talented. There's no question. And it's going to be fun with Washington because Washington's not just Penix. They've got one of the best O-lines in the game, and they got 3 NFL guys. So we'll see. I probably will pick Michigan, but I feel like they're going to have to outscore them because they've not played a quarterback like Milroe doesn't throw like Penix. You watch that game against Texas. The dimes he throws, my goodness.
Yeah, but he can run better, and he's more dynamic. I thought Milroe would give them a lot more problems than he did, and he did. He made some really nice plays with his arm and with his legs. But the Michigan defense is just too damn good. Even when
they're fast, man.
They're
fast,
quick. They're opportunistic. They know how to create turnovers and get to the ball, rally around it.
They're schemed up. They blitz and all sorts. Yeah,
that's the thing.
Blitz all sorts of ways.
Ninja.
They bring everything. They bring linebackers. They bring safety. Sometimes a corner blitz. It's really
well, the
impressive.
Thing too with Michigan, you're talking about this togetherness and all this other stuff, and that's definitely true. But I mean, they're without Zinter, right? Zach Zinter. I mean, they're heart and soul on offense. I mean. So without him, and they've done all this, they've kept it going. I mean, that's super impressive.
No, Harbaugh said from August when camp started, this was the best roster he's had at Michigan. And he said it along. He said, not only is this the best roster, but you've heard him say this several times. This is the team. Like we always say the team here. Schellekker's old phrase, but he's like, no, this is the team in terms of his tenure. This is the team. And what he was really saying is, if I'm ever going to win a title, this is the team to do it, because we're talented and they love each other and they're together, and that's a hell of a combination. But all right, we need to do my favorite thing. We need to take one more quick break, really quick, and we'll be right back, because this is my favorite part of the show. I like to hear what makes Carlos happy. We'll be right back with more Free Pair Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Pair Sports with Carlos and Shawn. It's that time of the show. Let's get your favorite thing. What makes Carlos happy, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, mine was simple. Actually, was my family came out from North Carolina. My sister and her family. My mom, she lives with my sister now, and we moved in a new place, Shawn, as you know, and this is our first Christmas in the new house, and we have this table, and it's got a couple of leaves you can put in it. And we'd never done the 2 leaves, and there were going to be 9 people at the house and at the table. And like, well, let's try it. So we tried it. It fit in the dining room. And it was just, we had some dinners with 9 people around the table, which we've never done before. No kids table, no nothing. The kids are not young anymore, but it was just, it was a fun time, and it really made it. We played games, board games, we had dinners, we had lunches. And it really, that moment where your house turns into a home, and that's part of that, is filling it with people you love, making those memories. It's a cliche, but it's true. It's now we remember what we're already talking about. Hey, the other day when that happened, when, my sister did this, or my cousin, my nephew, or I'm sorry, my niece did this, something else or whatever. And so it was a really nice visit, and I really appreciated it. And especially for my sister's family traveling on the holidays, which is a pain. So it was great.
That's great. And that makes me feel a little bit better, although I still can't believe that that's what kept you from joining me in Dallas. We were going to have some fun together.
I was bummed.
Show you.
Yeah. Our boss asked me, would you like to go to Dallas, and you want to go? And I was like, oh, and I've never been to AT&T Stadium. And that's one of the meccas in the NFL is Cowboys, right? At home.
Yeah, no, it's a fan base, and they dress up.
And you were going to be
the way the fans
town and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Hometown, but that would have been a lot of fun to go get some Jack in the Box.
Well, I graduated from high school there, so that for whatever that's worth. But yeah, so I guess that counts a little bit. Right?
Yes.
But that sounds lovely. My favorite thing is, God, I'm going to make this quick. The Rose Bowl is an incredible setting. Obviously from here, you've seen it.
I worked in Pasadena for 3 years, by the way. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. So it's in a little bit of a valley. There's a neighborhood up. There's a golf course next to it. There's a neighborhood up above, and then behind that neighborhood is San Gabriel Mountain. Close to that neighborhood is San Gabriel Mountains. It's spectacular. It is on game day though, especially for the Rose Bowl. When it's a Rose Bowl game, not UCLA home games, it's hard to get into, because it's like getting into the Dodger. All the stadiums around here, except for maybe USC's, are tucked in these little areas surrounded by rocks and trees. Anyway, there's no good way to get in there. You go through the neighborhoods to get in there.
One way in and one way out. That's it.
And you're reliant on troopers and the kindly folks, the public service folks, and God bless them. But so I allow myself 3 hours from downtown LA.
That's it.
And yeah, no. I've driven into the Rose Bowl 3 other times, And it's usually about an hour or so from downtown LA. By the way, folks, it's 18 miles. So that gives you some idea. The traffic is fine until I got down. Well, the problem this time is I get into one of these neighborhoods, and it just stops. And I sit there for an hour, and we don't move. And people are getting out. And I've never experienced anything like that before here. People are getting out. They're trying to find cops. What's going on? There's nowhere to go. Finally, people are starting to turn around, and I think, oh, my God. So 2.5 hours later, I'm still in my car. It's 25 minutes before the kickoff. About 40 minutes before the kickoff. I'm in trouble. I found a little strip mall where they were taking Venmo, and I paid for parking, and I walked. It was about a 35-minute walk. And, I managed to get there, but I've never been so thrilled. I got in there about 10 minutes before the kickoff, 5 minutes before the kickoff, and we're all good. But you just do what you have to do at some point, right? And then after the game, I had to back up. I had to go back up the hill. That was tough. It was easier.
Tony Garcia didn't give you a lift in his car?
No. So anyway, I was just, my favorite thing was walking into the Rose Bowl after thinking I might be in some trouble. But it turns out they shut the lot down where I was supposed to park. Mm-hmm. And so people were trying to figure out where to go. There was nowhere to go. There was one way in. And so all these people, as you can imagine, are trying to backtrack and get out, and there's no way to go.
So you give yourself 3 hours to get to your seat from the time you left your hotel.
Yeah. And normally it takes about 2. In my experience at the Rose Bowl, it takes about 2. It takes 1 hour tops. So that's a 2-hour leeway. And, you just figured it's just, it was, I've just never experienced anything like that before. But I was grateful to get
I can
in.
almost tell you right now that you're already going to be late to the championship game. Then if you think it only takes 3 hours to get from your hotel to the stadium, to get in to your seat. I mean, that's NFL time. And this is a national championship semifinal.
Oh, no, but that's an arena in a downtown city. Those
Plus,
are always
it's the
fine.
Rose Bowl.
It's always, those are always fine. Those are
when the Tigers play the Dodgers in the World Series next year, Shawn, give yourself about 6 hours to get into Dodger Stadium, okay?
Well, that's Dodger Stadium.
That's easier to get into than the Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl's horrible.
No, it's awful.
It's the worst. It's the worst stadium probably in the country to get in and out. Well, I don't know I haven't been to every one, but yeah, it's one. It's got to be but it's huge. It's obvious.
But I was grateful that I figured out how to make it happy. So that was my favorite thing. The bathroom that you're sitting in the car line long with no bathroom. That's a bigger issue.
I hope you didn't pull a Dumb and Dumber.
I don't remember what they did in Dumb and Dumber.
You can Google it.
Oh, okay.
That's Jeff Daniels.
All right, this is a family show. All right. Yeah, I got to roll. You got to roll. Let's get out of here. Let's take the people, Carlos, please.
Let's thank our producer, Robin Chan, for making this all possible. He's multitasking on Pistons Pulse. Let's thank executive producers, Kirkland Crawford and Anjanette Delgado, and editor of the Free Press, Nicole Avery Nichols. But mostly, Shawn, who are you thanking?
You. Oh,
Me.
Well, I thank you every day. I thank you every day. But no, y'all, the listeners, thanks for joining us, spending time with us. It's our privilege, obviously. You can find us wherever you find your favorite podcast, but you already know that. The big thing is to rate us when you get there, subscribe. Please let us know what you think. Until next week, right, Carlos? We'll be back with more football heavy podcast.
Hopefully Sunday after the Lions regular season finale.
Yeah. Hopefully Sunday after the Lions, we'll probably have a better idea of their playoff picture. And then after the national title game at some point between Michigan and Washington. It's Monday night in Houston. Alrighty, we will talk to y'all soon.